Ciao.
Reaction to generate the 1.21 gigawatts of electricity.
1.21 gigawatts! 1.21 gigawatts!
Way. Cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger.
Cornerstone of any nutritious breakfast. That's what Jules Winfield said in Pulp Fiction. So, glad that's going well for you. August Trometer is here with us, everybody. August Trometer. What do we say for you now? Do we say Foggy Noggin Software? Do we say developer at large? What do we say for you?
I don't know.
Okay. You would still call yourself a developer, though, because that's why we booked you.
Yeah.
I love the idea that, we all got together and said, who should be on the show? And I said, and everybody's like, shut up, you. All right. So you being a developer is actually the reason I wanted to talk to you today, because I talked to Adam Christensen earlier this week to sort of get his take from the, podcaster perspective, a different perspective from Allison Sheridan. But I wanted to be sure that I talked to somebody who actually does developer stuff. We will get to the One More Thing event, but I'm curious if you could tell me. Well, I'm curious if you could tell me about the whole thing about where you can write an app for iOS and then push a button and it'll work on the Mac, or vice versa. Because I was talking to somebody about it earlier this week. One of the things that I remember is, I guess it might have been Allison Sheridan that I was talking to, actually. One of the things that I remember not liking was when I got my iPad, how few iPad apps there were. And so you could run an iPhone app on it and you just put the 2x button and it really looked like a tiny app that somebody had just blown up and blown out, right? I know this should be better than that, but can you talk to me about what actually goes into developing an app that's going to work across all of them? Is it going to be the same app that works across all of them? Or will it be like, will the app be smart enough to know, hey, I'm on a Mac, I should look like this, whereas if I'm on an iPhone, I should look like that?
Well, it depends on the developer, is what it comes down to. And, you can develop for a particular screen size. And I think that's going to take time. It really is going to take time. I do know that, the write once, publish everywhere thing is really, really, really something that a lot of people have tried to do. And there are a lot of frameworks out there that allow you to do that. But you end up looking like, okay, well, it's not really an Android app, and it's not really an iOS app, and it's not really a Mac app. It's something that we wrote that kind of like covers all the bases so you can use it, but it doesn't really reflect the particular platform that it's on. So I'm going to be very interested to see what people come up with, especially in the early days of, publishing these apps that can go onto the Mac and onto the M1 processor. And I think that's the key. It's the processor. It's not necessarily the OS, although that has a lot to do with it. But I really am excited to see what people can do. I haven't tried, honestly, to publish on multiple platforms. I don't have an M1 chip machine. But I think Apple they're banking on the fact that people can at least run iPhone apps on their Mac. And is that on a shortened screen? Sure, probably. Or a shortened window, rather. At least initially. But as you grow as a developer, you start to go, okay, well, let's make that window bigger because it's on a Mac. And that's going to be a possibility.
It's not exactly hello world, but are you expecting, like, in the first few days, what you're going to have is just a bunch of apps that, are iPhone apps that go ahead and work on the Mac OS, say, and then eventually people will get better with that? Or, I don't know. I was thinking about, again, and maybe I should have just replayed the Allison Sheridan episode because this keeps coming up. She was talking yesterday about wishing for an Instagram app, I think it was, because the way she uses Instagram, she likes to do a lot of the stuff that she does for Instagram on her computer. So that's not this would be a better app if it were on this other platform. It's more I really wish I could use this set of controls, for this application or for this purpose.
Sure. I totally get that. And I honestly completely agree. I hate using Instagram on my phone. Mm-hmm. I wish I could use it on my Mac because that's kind of what I'm familiar with. That's where my photos are and all of that good stuff.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the fun stuff now. What did you think of the event? What did you think of the hardware? Talk to me. Was there anything? I'm going to guess for you, there was nothing that you're like, man, I wish I could buy that tomorrow, because everything was a little small. And I don't want to say it's underpowered because we haven't seen it in action yet, except for Apple saying, yeah, we're running it right now. It's like, well, that doesn't necessarily tell me what I need to know. What was your take on what you heard about the M1 and what did you think of the new machines they introduced?
Well, first of all, I think Apple is continuing to do something that I mentioned in a different interview with you, in that Apple Park is a character in their story.
Okay. Yeah. Which
is awesome. And it's really sad to me that they spent a gazillion dollars to build this building.
Yeah.
And no one is in it. But that's just the world that we live in now. Beyond that, to answer your question, I was so close to clicking a buy now on a MacBook Air.
Really?
Believe it or not. Yeah. Not even the Pro, because the only difference between the Air and the Pro is a fan.
Yeah.
And
I gotta figure better speakers as well.
Yeah. and sure, you can kind of like get more processing power out of the Pro, but really they're the same machine. And one of them is a lot lighter. And I really, even tonight, probably a half hour before this conversation, I was talking to my wife. I'm like, I really want to get one of those.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question really quickly, because you say that you can probably squeeze more processing power out of the Pro. Can you maybe demystify benchmarking for me? Because the thing that came out yesterday about the benchmarks for the M1, single core, the MacBook Pro does meet the MacBook Air, talking about both of the M1 machines. But multi-core, the MacBook Air actually beat the MacBook Pro. Not by much. But in the latest benchmarking, the Air actually does better than you would expect. Well, actually does better than the Pro. And I don't know, like raw speed, I think what I likened it to on something that I was on, or somebody that I was talking to, was like your odometer back in the day had 160 on there, right? Or your speedometer, excuse me. Speedometer said 160. You might never go to 160, but you could always see that, man, I could go to 160 though, right?
If I needed it.
Yeah, right, exactly. If they finally catch up to me, they're never going to catch up to me because I can go 160. What does the benchmark mean in that case? I mean, when you're talking about maxing out multi-core and all that stuff, if all you're doing is measuring for raw speed, does it mean anything that the MacBook Air can actually max out higher than the MacBook Pro? Or do you then go, okay, but then let's look at all of these other things that go in, and one will never match the other?
Yeah, I think it's the latter of the two.
Okay.
Because with the fan on the MacBook Pro, that allows sustained speed.
Okay.
Whereas on the MacBook Air, sure, you can get a certain level of performance, but it's going to be for a limited set of time. On the MacBook Pro, it's going to be for a longer set of time, simply because of the fan can keep that chip cool.
Let me ask one other question, because this is something else that's come up over the past couple of days. And God bless him, there's a guy named Vern who keeps writing to me, and he keeps saying the same thing to me over and over again, and it's just not clicking for me. The whole thing about the 16 gigabyte versus 8 gigabyte versus 3264 as far as RAM is concerned. There are people that I've heard talking who say, well, I will never buy one of these machines because I need 64 gigabytes of RAM. But we're talking about a whole new architecture. It seems to me, as somebody who's never really concerned myself with those kinds of specs terribly, we don't actually know how much RAM we need until we are dealing with one of these Apple Silicon chips, be it the M1 or, is it going to be M2 next, or is it going to be D1, or what's the next one going to be? I mean, until we actually have this in front of us, do we know whether 16 might be enough? I mean, can they fool it, basically, or can they do enough other stuff around the operating system and around, the rest of their Apple Silicon magic to make 16 seem like 64? Or is there something true about 64 is 4 times more, so that's better, and that's what I actually need, despite what Apple tells me?
Well, I think, if you're a geek like I am, you just want everything.
Right.
But honestly, when you look at the M1 chip,
mm-hmm.
and you look at the way they have the memory structured,
mm-hmm.
you might be able to get away with less, because it used to be all of these separate components that would access this memory, and the way they would do that was they would copy the memory to their own chip and then work on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, a GPU would copy some of the stuff that was in the RAM and to its own chip, and then work on that stuff. And that was fine. But now with the M1, it's all being accessed by everything. And because of the tight-knit structure of the chip, it's super fast. And I don't think we understand or know exactly how much RAM that we need.
Yeah, although it kind of feels like Apple missed a bet by not going ahead and giving it 64, even if it can't use it.
Yeah,
because people. No, I was making a joke. I'm sorry. Because you're about to be serious, and my point was they should just be like, "Oh, sure, we'll sell you 64 if you want to. It's still not going to use anything more than 16, but go ahead, knock yourself out, won't you?" Let me ask you one other question really quickly. Things like the M1 processor machines will not support an eGPU. Things like you can't go above 16 gigabytes. I know that one of the machines is technically a Pro machine. It is the 13-inch MacBook Pro. But the 13-inch MacBook Pro, I think, is for consumers who want to feel like a pro, in a way. I'm not saying it's not really a professional machine, but I feel like that is sort of a prosumer machine. I feel like that is the machine where a lot of people who go in to buy a Mac figure they have to start because they're doing serious computing, right? Even if they're not doing anything that would really require the shoulder of a pro, let's say. So eGPU, does that come later? The 3264, does that come later? I mean, are we actually looking at Apple's consumer offering here? Never mind the fact that one of them does say Pro at the end.
I think in Apple's parlance,
mm-hmm.
Pro does not necessarily mean expert.
Okay.
I think Pro just means nicer.
See, that's what I'm saying. It's not so much that you're a professional, it's your professional lifestyle.
Well, yeah, it's a marketing tool. It really, really is. And the fact that they put the M1 in both the Air and the 13-inch MacBook Pro tells me that they are using the Pro label as just marketing. And really, when it comes down to it, the only difference between the two machines is the fan and maybe, as you said, the audio.
Maybe better speakers, yeah. It's interesting, though, when you say that, because that hadn't occurred to me. I mean, on the one hand, you could say, well, Pro is just something they say to get a few more bucks out of some people. On the other hand, they may actually be saying, well, okay, sure. On the other hand, though, they may be saying, no, the M1 is seriously a professional machine. Look, we don't joke around about this Pro thing, and yet there it is in the Pro as well.
Right. And you know, if they had come out with, say, the M1 for the MacBook Air and the M1 X or Y or Z or whatever for the MacBook Pro, then I would lean towards the fact that they were trying to like make one better than the other. Mm-hmm. But honestly, when you look at the pricing, which I did, I'd get an Air. I would get an Air just because the size and the weight. You know, the most incredible thing about both machines is the battery life. You know, you can throw away the processor speed and all of that stuff, which Apple doesn't publish. But the battery life, oh my God, it's like double what we used to have, which is incredible. And it doesn't matter which of those machines you pick. That's the big, big feature that Apple came out with.